Hey, good morning, everybody. We have several topics we want to talk to you about today, but the first one is a public safety update. A year ago, we put in place a public safety task force, if you can recall, to gather input from the public and make recommendations to a reimagined public safety in Birmingham and in our community. Those recommendations included a full review as well as revisions of policies and procedures within the police department. If you can recall last year, this came at a time when the nation was confronting the deaths of George Floyd in Minneapolis and Breonna Taylor in Louisville. As an administration, I want everybody to know we are still committed to taking the appropriate next steps to avoid a tragedy like the Breonna Taylor case from taking place in Birmingham. And so today I am pleased to announce new rules and regulations surrounding search warrants for Birmingham police. This new process protects citizens and it protects police. So essentially, it centralizes all search warrants and creates a process to ensure those who secure the warrant also provide the valuable input for those who serve the warrant. It also requires a risk assessment to be completed before serving an actual search warrant. And it disallows devices such as flashbangs by police unless the risk assessment specifies their use or extreme circumstances call for their use. Now, the revised rules and regulations clearly state that the Birmingham Police Department does not authorize no-knock search warrants, and all reasonable efforts will be made to knock and announce intentions before actually entering a property. I'm confident that this is the right next step. And I want to thank Chief Smith and those who advise him, including faith leaders such as Pastor Beavers here. I also want to thank Brandon Johnson, who leads the Office of Peace and Policy, for their continued work on these matters. I want everybody to understand that this is not the only step. We look forward to sharing additional efforts in the weeks to come around reimagining public safety in our community. Before we talk about our next topic, I think it's appropriate to allow Chief Smith as well as Pastor Beavers to share a few words about this topic just mentioned. Chief Smith.
Thank you and good morning. This has been the ongoing evolution of our process in terms of updating policy and procedure within the Birmingham Police Department. Some of it is just simply stating the obvious, stating some of the things that we already have in place, making sure that we're providing safety for the community, but also codifying things that should be the norm in law enforcement. And so we're going to continue to work to reevaluate all of our policy, reevaluate everything that we do to make sure that we are implementing best practices in law enforcement and keeping the community safe while making sure that our officers are safe in the deliverance of search warrants. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Thomas Beavers, servant leader, senior pastor of the Star Church, Birmingham, Alabama. I've had the wonderful opportunity, along with other faith leaders in the community, representing all different parts of Birmingham, Alabama, Dr. Matthew Johnson, Dr. A.B. Sutton, Dr. Timothy Woods, and Dr. Kurt Clark, various churches in Birmingham, Alabama, to have a series of meetings with the police chief, perhaps over the past 6 to 7 months, to meet concerning police reform. We have discovered that if change is going to take place, it is absolutely important that it starts in Birmingham, Alabama. It's absolutely important that it starts in Birmingham, Alabama, because Birmingham has a very, very rich history, and we understand that the world is watching. Therefore, as a consequence, we understand the power and the historical capital that we have in Birmingham, Alabama, in order to bring change, especially to police reform. Birmingham, Alabama, all of us know, used to be a place where police brutality was running rampant inside of our city, and it affected the entire world, not just the entire nation. But now Birmingham, Alabama is a place and is becoming a place what change is taking place inside of Birmingham, Alabama, and because of the changes that we are making in Birmingham, Alabama, specifically to police reform, we believe with all of our hearts that it's going to have a national and even a worldwide effect. I have discovered that there are 4 different kinds of people in every kind of city. You have people in park, people in reverse, you have people in neutral, you have people in drive. Whenever you find somebody in park, they don't want to move forward, they don't want to move backwards. They're stuck in the same place because they're arrogant enough to think that they've already arrived. Whenever you have somebody in reverse, they only want to go backwards and go back to the good old days. Whenever you have somebody in neutral, they're liable to move forwards or backwards, but it's contingent upon an outside force. But whenever you have somebody in drive, they move forward by any means necessary. We are assembled here today because our city is in drive, specifically pertaining to no-knock warrants. The group of pastors that we have been meeting with got together with the police chief, and we specifically hammered on a couple of issues, but we're grateful today to say that one of these issues in Birmingham, Alabama has been resolved, and that is the issue of not authorizing no-knock warrants. So thank you so much to our mayor. Thank you so much to our chief. Thank you so much to all of the pastors that have been doing this work collectively together.
Thank you, Pastor Beavers. Thank you to all the faith leaders that have been active, holding this administration accountable, but also being partners, communicating in an open space, and encouraging us, not just praying with us, but offering solutions. So, genuinely, thank you. I also want to thank Chief Smith for being open and receptive to the faith leaders in our community, as well as other community partners around this topic of warrants. Thank you for your leadership, Chief. I told you all when we started there were a few other topics we wanted to discuss. One of them, an additional topic, is the city's credit rating. You know, despite a difficult 2020 budget, the steps taken to maintain services to our residents, as well as protect our employees and fully fund our pension, have paid off. I'm excited to state that Moodys Investor Service has recognized the fiscal responsible decisions the city of Birmingham has made and has revised our city's credit outlook from negative to now stable and affirmed the city's 883 rating, which is good news for the city of Birmingham. Moodys cited several reasons. I want to list a few of them. They include the city's commitment to funding our pension, the moderate debt levels through bond refunding, and no new debt issued, as well as in a diverse economy that continues to experience growth. And so I think it's important to recognize this administration's partnership with the council in supporting the steps needed, as well as I want to thank our senior financial advisor, Lester Smith, who's present, as well as Director of Finance, Aaron Sexton, and the entire finance team for their leadership in creating a budget that supports our priorities of neighborhood revitalization, while also taking the necessary steps to keep our finances strong. Before we go to the next topic, I want to bring Lester Smith up because when he became the director of our finance department, this was a priority related to having a stable outlook on the city's finances and being fiscally responsible and a good steward of taxpayers' dollars. Lester.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning. This is really it's amazing, and the credit rating agencies even expressed that in so much that the improvement the city of Birmingham has made in the last 30 months from the time it received its credit downgrade in April of 2019. At that point in time, think about your own individual credit. Not only do you have a credit score, but imagine if tied to that credit score there was an outlook that when you went in to buy a car or anything, it not only told the individual you were purchasing the item from what your credit score was, but it told you what your credit score may be in the near term, 6 to 24 months. When Moodys came in April and dropped our credit rating, the other thing they did is they gave us that negative outlook. And what that meant was if the Birmingham did not make decisive action within a short period of time, they were going to drop us. So if you think about it, currently right now, the city of Birmingham is at a high grade. The drop would have put us at an upper medium. What that means is you can think about it this way. If you go in to buy a car, as many people know, the first question they ask is, what do you want your payment to be? If you pay more in interest, then that translates to you get to purchase less of a vehicle. The credit rating of the city of Birmingham is instrumental because if it loses its credit rating, there's more money shifted from any bond issuance we have from actually purchasing fire trucks, ALS units, police vehicles, refuse trucks, to all of a sudden we're paying more in interest. So the turnaround that the city of Birmingham under Mayor Woodfin's leadership in the last 30 months is just something that's amazing. One of the things that the mayor has already alluded to is that they mentioned the pension. This pension has not been funded at its required level since 2003. Think about that. The current unfunded liability at this point in time stands at $400 million. So the city has come in through recently passed legislation that it'll be able to pay off that unfunded liability over a 30-year period. The other thing that Moodys noted was the austere budget that was issued out in 2021. They said that what that showed is it showed the city's commitment to its fiscal responsibility even in the light of a pandemic. So we are very proud to have this report from Moodys. Congratulations to the mayor and his administration for everything that they've done to ensure that this happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Lester. Lester's being modest. It's really great work and some tough decision making that got us to this point. I have a few more notes, and the next one is on emergency rental assistance. I think it's important to give some stats around this topic because it's important that we communicate to our citizens resources available to them if they need help around their rent or around payment for their utilities. Now, this update through the Federal CARES Act, I want to remind everybody that the city received $6 million in rental assistance. There have been nearly 4,000 engagements by individuals for this program. Of those applications, 1,500 began an actual application but have not completed it at this time. In addition to that, nearly 1,300 withdrew their application because they either didn't qualify or did not live in our city limits. More than 700 applicants are in the process of review or providing additional information. And more than 130 have been paid out for a total of nearly $617,000. But I want everybody to remember something. This money goes to the landlord or the utility company on behalf of the person who is behind in payments due to COVID. As we continue to encourage people to sign up for the rental assistance, our team will continue to monitor any roadblocks for a successful application. But I think it's important to acknowledge the challenge. A key challenge across the country, not just in Birmingham, is the paperwork required by the federal government. Already, the federal government has made changes to make the process easier, and I'm excited about that. And so if you'd like to sign up, please go to birminghamal.gov/rent-help. Again, that's birminghamal.gov/rent-help. But you can also get information by dialing a number. I'm going to repeat that number twice. It's 1-844-287-1250. Again, that's 1-844-287-1250 to sign up or ask any questions related to if you need assistance because you are behind on your rent in our city limits or you're behind on your utilities in the city limits of Birmingham. With that, I want to bring Chris Hatcher up if he wants to provide any additional information related to this topic because we need to get this information out there.
Yes, sir. Good morning, and thank you, Mayor. I just really and truly want to put at ease some misnomers of what I'm hearing on the streets about the rental assistance program. With the mayor's direction, he's charged us with putting on the streets a fair and equitable process to where renters in the city of Birmingham who had been drastically devastated and in housing need provide services and provide funding through the rental assistance program. And we believe that we have done so. And we urge each and every one of you individuals, residents of the city of Birmingham, who may be behind on their rent, may be behind on your utilities, to apply to the program. We're here to assist. We are partnered and gathered a team that is ready and able to assist. The federal government granted or awarded the city of Birmingham these funds to provide to citizens in need with the city. The city of Birmingham does not keep the money. The city of Birmingham is not withholding money intentionally. The city of Birmingham wants to provide the assistance, but we need our residents who are in need to provide the paperwork. The federal government is looking for the paperwork to say that, yes, I have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and I need assistance. And we in the city of Birmingham needs your assistance to help you. So as the mayor stated, please apply. Use the phone number that the mayor just identified. Call us. You can go on email at www.birminghamal.gov/COVID-rent to gain information on getting assistance. With that said, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chris. All right, everybody, just a few more notes, and that is, the next one is Eating the Streets. A reminder that Eating the Streets takes place again this weekend, something we've been doing definitely around COVID and our citizens being allowed to go out and eat but still feel safe. And so to that end, Pepper Place will host a Friday only, so it won't be 2 days, it will only be one. This Friday at Pepper Place. The other will be downtown this weekend, Friday and Saturday, along 20th Street between 1st Avenue North and 3rd Avenue North will host Eating the Streets. And the last note is Freedom Fest, everybody. Freedom Fest is this Saturday, July 24th. Again, Freedom Fest is this Saturday. You can join the virtual event for an afternoon of music and empowerment by going to Freedom Fest BHM. That's freedomfestbhm.com to sign up for this free event. The musical acts include Pastor Mike McClure Jr., Victoria Jones, and Trans Lee. I hope you join us for this special event of music and empowerment. And with that, Rick, turning it over to you for any questions they may have.
Any questions from anybody today? Yes, go ahead.
I'm working on a story today about flooding. I guess addressing flooding in our areas with this ongoing rain.
All right. How's your story coming?
So I just wanted you to, will you address that topic for us today?
Yes.
Is there any efforts being made cleaning out storm drains, thanking our first responders?
I was just giving you a hard time.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Saturday, when it was about 30-minute extreme heavy pour came into our city, I called Don Lupo. Don Lupo has been a long-time city employee for 20-plus years, and I'm grateful for his service. But this has been a topic he's watched over his 20 years of service. And I said, hey, man, I'm looking out of my window, and I've been living where I live for 13 years. And what I saw in that 30-minute window Saturday, I've never seen before. Tell me what's going on in the city of Birmingham. He says, Mayor, we have over 3 creeks in the city. At certain times of point, when they reach a level embankment and they go over, that water comes into our city streets. And the amount of water that's been coming to our city and the amount of rain over these many days and how heavy the downpour has been, our system hasn't been able to keep up with it. All right, so tell me about the inlets. Are we keeping them clean? Do we check them? The answer is yes. But what can we do long term? And that is where the team, Capital Projects, PEP, they've all been working on upgrading our infrastructure. That is a long play. That is not anything we can solve overnight. But what we're witnessing in our city is not new. When you have this much water dumped in our city, at the same time have these many creeks in our city, it causes problems in certain areas. Not just centrally located, but west and east as well. But this is something not only has my attention, it also has city council attention. And I think this is something we want to make as a priority. We look forward to the federal government passing an infrastructure bill, and maybe that could provide some immediate assistance related to actual dollars allocated to the problem, because at its current cost, it is extremely cost prohibitive. Hope that helps your story.
Anybody else?
On the COVID rent situation, what do you say to the landlord who may have had a tenant that's that's now left that property.
I'm gonna bring the expert up and let her chop it up with you.
Can the landlord apply for that? I mean, if they've lost track of their tenant that's left the property, they're still owed rent and or utilities for that. What do you say to the landlords?
So yes, the landlord can still apply, but they still would need that tenant's information to complete the application.
Okay.
That's it. Sometimes it's short and sweet.
And what was it about, go back to the warrants, no, not warrants.
Where, chief here or? Yeah.
And what was it about the Breonna Taylor case that kind of sparked the changes in your mind about how you wanted to handle warrants in the
Yeah.
city?
So this was a national conversation. I think we were all shocked and struck by the fact that, you know, during an actual serving of a warrant, a person that's in their home, a person that's sleeping in their home, they should actually be able to wake up. They shouldn't be shot, and they definitely shouldn't be killed. When the warrant doesn't even have anything to do with them. I think that's wrong. I think morally that's off. And I think as a nation, there was an outcry about when we around the conversation of police reform, around the conversation of social justice, how are our police interacting with our citizens when they execute on a warrant? And can safety measures be in place? Or how about this? Just check out your current policies and procedures around how you execute on warrants. And are they safe enough for the actual citizen or their property that is being served? And is it safe enough for that officer? The city of Birmingham is no different than any city. We should always look inward first. We shouldn't just be pointing to Louisville and say they got it wrong. The question is, can that happen again? Can that happen in Birmingham? And if the answer is even remotely or slightly possible, yes, then we should look at our policies and procedures and change them. That was literally one of the things the group of faith leaders shared with Chief Smith. It was one of their top concerns because it was at the height of when Breonna Taylor was killed in a national conversation. Unfortunately, policies and procedures don't always move fast as we want them to, but it does move. And related to changing our policies and procedures that keep citizens safe and keep the officers safe, I think what is here does that.
Chief Smith still here? Can he
Yeah.
answer that question as well?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Just what was it about the Breonna Taylor case that you felt changes needed to be made on how your officers conduct warrants? Or
You know, quite frankly, it was just making sure that we were following the best practices in law enforcement. But more importantly, where's Pastor Beavers? I would like to call him up because, to be honest with you, these two pastors, they came to my conference room hot and heavy, and we actually sat down and had very long conversations over a period of several months, making sure that we had the right policy in place. But then I also went to the other side, making sure that the officers who were involved, who were implementing the policy, who were doing the search warrants, who were out there on the streets, also that they had something that they could work with, and that it represented what we could possibly do to protect the community and also protect the officers in implementing the appropriate warrant at the appropriate time with the appropriate policy in place. But I honestly give the credit here to the pastors being there and the driving force behind the community engagement and what we do.
what do you need the officers to do differently now to obtain a warrant that they didn't have to do before? What's the change in the
Well,
officers?
you know, the change for us is, fortunately, we have not had the issues or problem here in Birmingham that has surfaced in some areas. However, we want to make sure that we are addressing it on the front end and making sure that we have the appropriate policy in place as a preventative measure. The other part is there were certain things that were a part of procedure but were not codified in writing. And so that was the most important part, codifying what we do, having it in writing with thorough explanations behind it, and letting the officers know exactly what we were doing.
All right, so for me.
Just, yes, please. Thank you. My question is just about the rental insurance, so it can, or rental emergency. I'm sure there's a threshold. It sounds like a huge number of applications were withdrawn because people didn't live in the city limits, and then of course people didn't finish them. So if there's a federal government threshold you have to reach, at what point do you have to reach that, and how much is there left to get to there?
Okay. There is a federal threshold that we do have to reach, and that threshold is we have to expend all of ERA 1. There are 2 allocations of emergency rental assistance, ERA 1 and ERA 2 by Treasury. We have to expend all our ERA 1 dollars by September 30th of 2022. So we believe that we have the process in place that we're going to do that. ERA 2, although a similar program, there are some unique differences in the guidance of the programs. There are some allowances that we can pay for out of ERA 2 that we can't pay out of ERA 1. So it is a balancing process of, you know, what can we pay out of ERA 1? What do we pay out of ERA 2? ERA 2, I believe the deadline for that expenditure goes out to 2025. So we are concentrating and prioritizing spending out of ERA 1 before we really fully start spending our ERA 2 allocation.
That's the last question. And young man.
Okay.